My experience as a physician, my first experiences using acupuncture were in the hospital. I had hospital privileges. So, I mean, it was in the ICU, that's where it works wonderfully if you know how to do it. I remember one of the first cases I may have told you about when I was got my hospital privileges, and I was called in to see a woman who had fallen down and broken her knee in a very bad fracture, and it had torn the popliteal arteries. And she was overweight and she was diabetic, and her blood sugars were way out of control. And they had done a fasciotomy, which means they had to cut open her leg, and they had done an orthopedic repair and vascular surgery. So, like a $200,000 hospital bill or something. She had developed not one, but two nosocomial infections, and they were going to cut off her leg. And it was Tuesday, and they were going to cut off her leg on Friday. And I went in there, and it was a terrible mess with a big soupy infection, open wound in the ICU. And I made a Chinese herbal poultice for that, and brought it in thermos jugs, you know, and was using the long needles to open up the hip and the knee and so forth. And I just took the towel and just dipped it in the wound. And by Friday, they were saying, this looks a lot better. Let's postpone the surgery till next week. Next week it rolled around. It's looking a lot better. Finally, she was discharged, you know, and she went home and she has a leg. The cost of the herbs was $20. My time, needles were $5. That's my experience of using Chinese medicine. But you don't get that kind of training from our point of view in education. But that's my point of view. And the thing that's so important is if you go back and you study the Chinese medicine at depth from its sources, it also fills in this very important place that Western medicine doesn't cover very well. So Western medicine is pretty good about things, like cutting out tumors, treating an infection thing. It's not good at processes. What's the underlying process that brought the disease? What was the change in the oncology that allowed the disease to arise and be maintained? And Chinese medicine is wonderful for that if you understand it. Um, and so there's this way that this is not only an issue about, oh, acupuncture schools are closing. It's an issue like this medicine is desperately needed by the
Mhm.
world. And the profession right now is not expressing that level in many cases.